Maps are a big part of Battledudes. Depending on your preference, there are some maps which you love, and some which you absolutely despise. In this video, I'll be ranking all the Battledudes maps as of Season 10 from worst to best. Please take note that this will mostly be based on my opinion, as every ranking video will be. However, to eliminate as much bias as possible, I'll follow some criteria when ranking the individual maps. The criteria are its size, design, how fun it is to play on, the weapons and game modes that are supported, and lastly, the presence of annoying features such as roofs, vehicles and water. With all of that out of the way, let's get straight into it. I think we all expected this map to be down here. This map is just wrong in a lot of ways. But first, let's look at its size. This is the length of the map with Berserker and Sprinter at 5 times the speed. F***ing preposterous. In game modes like Upload, players could bring the intel out into the ice, forcing an ice battlefield. Even with a high level of skill, you will have trouble fighting on ice unless you're against complete noobs. Long-range weapons such as the Falcon and snipers will completely dominate. Needless to say, it isn't fun at all. So that's 3 criteria down for Islands. I guess we can be thankful that Islands is at least filled with ice and not water like before. And for the last of the bad things about this map, it has vehicles. I'm not talking about the boats, that's the only good thing about Islands. I'm talking about the tanks and cars. Having cars in Islands defeats the whole purpose of having boats. What makes even less sense is there being a tank. It's literally placed in the middle of nowhere too. But with all the bad things about Islands covered, let's get into the only redeeming quality about Islands. It has this. 10 out of 10 for design. Jailbreak is a pretty unique map. Unlike a lot of other maps, its design is good and makes complete sense. However, the main structure of the map is just a bunch of straight hallways. It looks organized in hindsight, but it is a recipe for disaster. Firstly, people can drive a car at full speed, catching people off guard. While this can be predicted from the minimap, players who spam the M249, M1 and light sniper can't be predicted, which can result in a lot of free kills for them. Granted, this only happens in the first few minutes of a match, but even after Jailbreak is partially destroyed, the gameplay isn't as good as in other maps as it's extremely easy to get pushed into a corner. This could result in players fighting in the outer part of Jailbreak instead, which is almost completely open space. Open space gameplay requires the most skill in my opinion, but Campsite does it much better than this map. While this map may be ranked 9th, I still think it's a pretty fun map to play on, but playing on the maps above are a lot more fun to me. Riverside is one of the oldest maps in the game. This may give it a lot of sentimental value, but it's still hard to ignore the glaring flaws in this map. Firstly, it's enormous. Traversing in this map without vehicles can take a long time. Secondly, this map only has one tiny bridge connecting the 2 sides. The start of a match always ends up with both sides clashing at that bridge. You can still walk through the river, but you'll just be a vulnerable target for enemies. If the only things clashing were people and vehicles, this map would be fine. Unfortunately, this map has 4 tanks. 4 tanks. Even if you like tanks, you have to agree it's pretty excessive. Having that many tanks in one battlefield will result in a battle of explosives, which is much more chaotic and less fun than a regular gun fight in my opinion. While this is true, Riverside does have interesting buildings and a great design. The awkward clash and excessive vehicles are what pulls it down. Campsite gets hated on a lot because it's almost 100% open space. But honestly, I just think that's a skill issue. In all seriousness, open space combat is one of the hardest to master, which is why most people don't like it. But that isn't what brought Campsite down to the bottom half of the list. The first thing about Campsite is its design is probably the worst out of all 10 maps, but I guess that's unavoidable for an open space map. Secondly, open space only supports certain assault rifles, snipers, and the pump shotgun, meaning that not everyone can do well in Campsite. Lastly, Campsite has vehicles. Why is that a problem? Well, 1, it makes no sense. 2, they're OP in this map. Since open space combat needs skill, vehicles just completely ruin the experience. Imagine having a random Jeep ram into you while you were having a friendly sniper fight. It can be pretty damn annoying. Tanks, which are extremely tedious to deal with, are also in this map. Campsite is one of my favorite maps, but these downsides are too much for me to put it any higher. This map shouldn't exist. Westlands is an amazing map by itself. Adding a vehicles version just completely ruined its reputation in my opinion. But I'll talk about Westlands later. For now, we can agree that vehicles don't belong in this map. I would also rate it right below Westlands since vehicles don't bring it down too much, but I don't want a repeat map to be in the top 5. With that out of the way, here are the top 5 Battledudes maps. This might be the most iconic map in Battledudes. It's very well designed and you really can't go wrong using any weapon here. It's quite the large map, but vehicles are able to get you close to action in no time. The buildings also make for interesting battlefields, though some of them are underutilized in certain game modes. And there are no tanks, which is a cause of celebration in and of itself. Clearly, Crossroads is quite a good map. But the reason it's not ranked any higher is due to its enormous size. I did say that vehicles would help you get around quickly, but most of the time, there isn't a vehicle conveniently waiting in front of you. The concept of the map can also cause some problems. Like Jailbreak, there is a straight path for cars to travel at full speed, which instantly kills any unfortunate soul who crossed the wrong road. But apart from those problems, Crossroads is an amazing map well deserving of its 5th spot in this list. Crossroads is one of if not the biggest map in Battledudes. The compound is the smallest. As we have covered, a bigger size can be a problem sometimes, but a map of compound size is no better. It's much easier to find opponents to fight in compound. But due to its small size, you might find yourself spawning in the middle of a chaotic 3-way battle, with no way to protect yourself. The opposite can also be true, where enemies spawn directly on top of you, giving you no place to run. This is a pain in the ass to deal with, but if you manage to get used to it, the chaos of Compound's combat can get pretty fun sometimes. Compound is also one of the maps prominent for camping with mines and close-range guns. But especially in a small map like this, roofs will mostly disappear after a while, rendering camping useless. If you're aware enough, campers are also not much of a threat in the first place. While its size and large amounts of roofs do sort of pull it down, Compound is a well-designed map and also one of the only maps where SMGs are one of the best options. The Heist and the Compound are the 2 most preferred maps for FFA due to their small size, which makes it easier to get fast kills. When it comes to which one is a better map, however, I believe the Heist takes the cake. Firstly, it's quite a bit larger than the Compound, meaning gameplay isn't as chaotic, which appeals to more people. While the design is quite simple, splitting the middle effectively forces people to be patient and wait for the right time to strike. The map is also structured in a way where the top team has to adopt a more passive and strategic play style, while the bottom team is free to go aggressive due to the vast open space. Both teams could also opt to walk around the bank. But those people would take a long time to get into action, forcing a temporary clash right in the middle. Unlike the other maps on this list, the clash can go in many different ways depending on how aggressive either side wants to be. Something that only takes place in the first minute of a match may seem insignificant. But in a lot of game modes, the outcome of the clash can determine the winning team right from the start. Apart from its structure, the Heist is also a map which supports every weapon, making it an ideal choice for many players. The only thing bad I can say about this map is the existence of roofs, but roofs just shouldn't exist in any map to begin with. Second is Canal, with the most unique design in the game. The Heist is a high standard to beat, but I think Canal is slightly better. There is no strategic clash in this map. Rather, the whole map is a strategy in itself. Canal has 3 key areas. The first key area is the middle, which is a perfect balance between buildings and open space. As usual, that's where most of the action will take place. The second key areas are the spawn points. These areas are important in game modes like CTF or control points. The last key area is the pathway at the top. In most game modes, this pathway is a pretty remote area, but in modes like Upload and CTF, this area is used a lot. Canal is ranked so high mainly because of how the actual canal is placed such that it cleanly divides all 3 of the key areas. You can choose to go to the middle and engage in a battle of brute force. Or you can choose to go around the top. The top route is much safer as the people in the middle have only one safe way to get to you, which is to go straight to your flag return point. But there'll already be defenders there to help you. With good team coordination, this map is pretty fun. Lastly, I remember saying that tanks and vehicles are a bad part about maps. But in this regard, I think the tanks are pretty well placed such that you have to know when to use them to defend and attack. The jeeps are also the only transport vehicle here, which is much better than having the small cars zooming at you. The Heist is a map for sweats. Canal is a map for casual players. I would say Westlands is somewhere in between. In terms of design, it is the only map set in a desert, completely different from every other map in this list. In my opinion, the best design in the game, and it's not just based on looks. This map does have a clash right in the middle, but unlike Heist, it's a clash in open space, allowing others to join in the action from many different angles. While the journey to the middle of Westlands is always the same, the clash that happens in the middle is always going to be different from a previous one. This map also supports literally every game mode and most weapons will do decently well here. The building surrounding the road in the middle makes for a lot of interesting gameplay. Sometimes it can be annoying because buildings means campers do exist, but as I previously said, roofs shouldn't exist to begin with. The only other thing to say about Westlands is the vast open desert space that really serves no purpose except to give more space for people to run away. Regardless, I still think Westlands is the most balanced map in the game. And there's my list. I tried to make it as unbiased as possible, but I still think this topic is very subjective and everyone's list will be completely different. Let me know what your rankings are in the comments. Some maps that I've ranked lower does not necessarily mean they are bad, it just means that the maps above them are good. Except for Islands. Islands is trash. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Stay cool, peace out.